And joining us now, it's an honor to have her on the show for the first time. She was, of course, a four-time All-American, 96 gold medalist, and the original U.S. softball national team was one of the greats, if not the greatest, in Cal softball history, Hall of Famer. And of course, now the assistant coach has been on the staff for a few years, but now full-time assistant at Cal Poly. We speak of the great Michele Granger, who joins us here on In the Circle. Honor to have you.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Well, let's start with the news there at the top I just mentioned. You're now a full-time assistant coach at Cal Poly. You had been a volunteer, but now you're part of, full-time on the staff. Just take us through that process, as that's pretty big news, exciting news that you're back in coaching and here in college softball.
Well, the last time I coached was at the University of Tennessee when my youngest son was born. I was pregnant with him. And I didn't think I could handle coaching duties and having four little kids. And so I stepped away from it to raise the kids and do the whole family thing, which was awesome. And hadn't really thought about coming back into college coaching until my kids started trickling out of the house. They're all in law school and college. And it happened to come up where I ran into Gina Vecchione at a tournament because I've been coaching the whole time, whether it be private lessons, travel ball. The last thing I was doing when I ran into Gina, I was coaching with the Choppers down in SoCal, which was awesome because the Fawcett's are just fantastic. I've known them for years, and they've, run the Choppers, a fantastic organization down in SoCal. My daughter started playing with them, and then ran into Gina, and she mentioned that Sierra Highland, who was a top-notch pitcher here at Cal Poly, who was the pitching coach at the time, was working out with the Mexican national team in preparation for the Olympics, and then, as we all know, that got shut down in 2020, and then that got extended. And so I helped by coming in when she was gone during that time period. And then Sierra decided she was going to continue to play and go overseas, and the job came open, and I was lucky enough to get it. And it's been a really good fit.
That's incredible. What was it like seeing Sierra Highland in the Olympics for Team Mexico? And obviously has moved on and playing at high level, arguably the greatest to play at Cal Poly. What was it like for y'all as a program to see her kind of achieve her dreams in the Olympics?
Well, I think it's like anything else. You always want to. I didn't get the opportunity to coach Sierra. I was able to work with her when she was here in terms of, we were kind of co-coaching the pitchers. And so I always gravitate towards those type of pitchers that are just, tough. They're super competitive, and she certainly falls into that category. So, for our program to have an athlete playing at that level it's a difference maker, right? It shows that you can come from a mid-major and do great things. And, pitching in general is still, no matter what all the batters and outfielders think, it's a game changer when you have a strong pitcher in the circle. And she was certainly a game changer here. And the hope is that, the exposure she gets and the exposure she continues to get, is an invitation to high caliber athletes that you can do whatever you want in the softball world coming out of Cal Poly softball.
I'm so fascinated as you watch the Olympics. How much flashbacks did you have to Atlanta in '96? Especially since during the Olympic coverage this summer, they showed footages of the '96 Olympics, part of some documentaries that were done on Peacock and things like that on the '96 Olympic team. Obviously, you were a part of that initial team. You threw the first game in that, and you threw in the gold medal game. 25 years later after that, what goes through your mind of that experience?
So I don't really watch a lot of film on myself or my experiences, and maybe I'll do that 10 years from now. I just am not quite at that point yet, but I will tell you that, well, my kids will tell you that whenever I watch softball, I yell at the TV a lot because I'm like, don't throw the curve. I hate the freaking curve, and then sure enough, it gets freaking hit and it just throws me into a frenzy. So I can't really watch it, I guess, and maybe truly enjoy it just yet. I still have that like competitive vibe where you get so tied up in what the players are doing, and you really are pulling for each and every one of them. And you can see where things aren't necessarily going their way. The U.S., struggled with hitting, and it's tough to play in that environment. And I don't think people always appreciate how hard it is to be playing overseas and the time change. And they don't get to play as a unit as long. I'm hoping as it continues to grow in the sport, just gets more and more exposure as it has over the years, that the players will get the support that they need to make sure that they're ready to go. And I really feel like a lot of that is having a program in place, whether it be, housing them for longer periods of time, getting them, the nutrition and the workouts that they need, and making sure that they're getting everything they need to be successful once they get there, because the games are the fun part, right? I mean, the games are what everybody loves. And I personally love the pressure. And I know that those athletes that represented us this time through love the pressure. That's part of the fun. But I do feel like sometimes we lack on the preparation side. And frankly, that's just going to be funding and making sure that we're able to, get the kids working as a unit with the proper people helping them along the way. And by that, I mean consistency, right? They get some sporadic help, but how do you pay your bills? And, when I was training for the Olympics, it was an 8-hour-a-day thing, right? So you get up in the morning and, you do a round on your mechanics, and then, you take a snack break, and then you do cardio, and then you take a snack break and you do some light lifting, and then you're back at it again later in the day working on power. So if you're doing that 8, 9, 10 hours a day, how do you make money to support yourself, to pay for the trainer to help you, or to pay for the nutritionist to help you balance that out? It doesn't. Women's sports have come a long way, but I'm hoping by the next Olympics, there'll really be a solid representation of every athlete needs to feel fully supported on their path to the Olympic Games. And there's no reason for that to not happen in this day and age. So I'm hopeful when I watch those games, because I see some super positive changes, but I also know that there's still changes that need to be made to make sure that those athletes are getting what they need so that they can perform at the highest level. And, it still makes me mad that the roster's not bigger. The
Right.
roster,
Amen.
I mean, come on. That's just, I can't even fathom the roster size not being at least to 18. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. So you want to showcase our sport and what we can do, then let's showcase more athletes that can, that are really fast and are solid runners. And you can take more specialty, type players. Right now, the way the roster is, you have to take a lot of utility players, right? So
Yeah. Right.
you're really good at everything, but maybe you're not great at one thing. Let's take the great ones too, right? And I guess that's my personal bias, being just really good at one thing. God knows no one ever wanted me to hit or run. I certainly was never going to be on defense. It's like, oh crap, there's a reason I never let anybody hit the ball to me, because I didn't want to throw it to first, right? It's kind of nuts. But I think always, and as the years go by, I think I'll continue to look back at the 96 Olympics as that pivotal end of my career, where it really felt like I felt really fortunate, because in 88, they said it was going to be in the 80s, and that, it didn't get in until 96. And I wasn't so sure I was going to hang around till 96. So I felt really lucky that I was able to do that, because there were so many athletes that I've seen over the years that, I mean, they all could have done it. There were so many. I mean, there's certainly a difference between the elite athlete and then the really good ones, but there's a lot of elite athletes that could have been on that team. And they just really aged out because we didn't get in until so late. And then, of course, you had the big gap. I mean, kudos to Kat Osterman. I mean, I'm just super impressed that anybody would still be throwing. And frankly, Monica too, even though she didn't come out of retirement, to stay in that kind of condition over that period of time is just, a marvel to me. So, it's a fantastic experience that I'll always look back on, but I'm also hopeful for the future that every time we come up against international play, whether it be the Olympics or the World Championships, that our athletes are truly prepared.
If only you had some opinions about it, you should share it,
Right? I could be annoyed for a long time. I mean, I've been very fortunate, like I said, to have seen this game through multiple lenses, whether it be, rec ball and having dinosaurs in your pocket to encourage the little, the little baseball kids to run down to first fast, or the little girls and their little pink hats out there, all the way through the ranks to JC, high school, and the college ranks. And it's an amazing sport. And we all, I think, and I shouldn't probably speak for anybody else, so I'll just say I am excited about where our sport is going. I love that so many of the players now, there's no social media. In the 90s, there was no Instagram and the TikTok stuff and all of those things. They have such fantastic access to information now. You want to learn how to pitch? You can find somebody that's going to help you do that, and not just one person. There's multiple forums of information for these athletes of today, but now they have to sift through it, right, and filter what's useful and what's not useful, and that sometimes can be hard too. So
How did you get growing up? Decide to play softball? What got you interested in playing softball, and how'd you ended up at Cal?
So I started playing softball because my older sister and my neighbors said I couldn't play with them because I wasn't good enough. It's pretty simple, right? That pushed the old competitive button right there. Tell me I'm not good enough at something, and then I'll practice. I basically practiced with my dad for a year when I was a fifth grader. I never played in a game, did nothing but practiced pitching every single day. And so by the time I stepped on the mound as a sixth grader in a rec league, I just mowed it by everybody. I mean, my coach at the time of the Lucky Leprechauns, I think that was the team. He promised me a pizza if I threw a no hitter or struck out a certain amount. And I'm like, well, shoot, all right, there's food. So I would do that. So I started playing like most young kids do because something their sisters did. And then I ended up at Cal because I was looking for a balance of softball and academics. I was looking for a place that was in the Pac-10, which is what it was at the time. It was the most competitive softball division in the country at the time. And it was hard. I mean, because UCLA was UCLA. They had tradition. I loved their coaches, Sharon and Sue. They were just fantastic people. But I know this is going to sound really nerdy, and I'm actually not that smart, so you'd be surprised at this answer. But I loved the libraries at Berkeley. They had these primary resource libraries that you could hold these books at the time in your hand, and somebody had written it on parchment paper and it was burned on the edges, and that sold me. I know that sounds really dorky, but I just love that part of that campus. And that's why I went to Cal.
You hold a lot of records at Cal. You hold some NCAA records, perfect games. I mean, you're up there in the categories, every category, strikeouts, wins, you name it, from your time there, 89 to 93. Do you have a favorite moment from your time at Cal? Was it 92 when you got to Oklahoma City? I would imagine that's right up there.
It is, but I think for me, and I think pitchers have to have a really short-term memory, because in order to be good, you truly have to be able to flush each pitch, like pitch by pitch. People say inning by inning or play batter by batter. I got really good because I threw so many games at flushing it after each pitch. Of course, the problem with that is I don't think you enjoy the moments as much. So for me, it would be a specific pitch. Like when I knew, you know, I could throw the ball and sometimes I challenge myself, like when the batter would have their bat up like this, I'd hit the back of the bat. Like I knew, they had a rhythm, right? And if they had a rhythm, I'm like, oh, I'm going to see if I can hit the end of their bat and get a foul ball. So I had little victories like that when things that stick out in my head. But I think also, we beat UCLA in a doubleheader one time, and we hadn't done that. And that was, and UCLA was stacked. And so that was a big moment for me. I really, the College World Series is a tough one because even though we were there, I didn't feel like we had our best showing. And that I clearly remember losing to Arizona, and the batter, I can't remember who the batter was though, stuck her bat out, and it was like a little bloop line that went through the 5-6 hole, right, and scored a run. And I'm just thinking to myself, God, you got to be better than that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why aren't you better than that? So what are you going to do, to make a difference the next time? So I think, unfortunately, some of the moments get muddled because I do the pitch by pitch thing, and those things stick out. But I don't know. I mean, I guess the overall experience at Cal, just the people that I met, and a lot of my teachers, frankly, I was very fortunate at Cal to have some incredible teachers. I took a Latin class, and I don't know why. I thought I was going to go on and become a PhD in early religion. And so I was taking Latin, and my class was full of super freaking smart people. And they came to a softball game, and I walked the first batter, and they all stood up and cheered like I had done something fantastic. It's just quirky things like that, I guess, that are stick in my head from the college days. But I know that's not really on track in terms of people remembering championships, but that's just how my brain works, I guess.
Well, first of all, I mean, that was during a time where the Pac-10 it felt like playing a Pac-10 in the conference was like playing in the World Series every weekend. And I want to read off the numbers here for some of the audience that may not be aware. You hold the school record. Games started 162, complete games 155. You threw over 1,200 innings, 1,640 strikeouts, 94 shutouts, 25 no-hitters, 5 perfect games. Those are records that may not be touched. And you pitched in the same time frame that Lisa Fernandez did for UCLA and would become teammates on Team USA. What was that like, competing against Elisa Fernandez and then eventually being teammates with her?
Well, we were actually teammates before that. We played travel ball together.
Ooh.
So yeah, we'd won national championships on the travel ball circuit prior to doing the college thing. So, we were very familiar with each other, and we had a conversation before the gold medal game in the Olympics, and we're like, well, one of us is going to throw the game. What do you think it's going to be? And neither one of us guessed right. I thought she was going to start the game and I would come in because I was very used to being a relief pitcher. And she thought it was going to be the opposite. So it turned out, right, that's the way it was. I started the game and she came in the sixth. And I just remember I was pissed that I got taken out of that game. And I'm like, you better freaking do this. It's like, if I'm gonna be cheering at you from the sidelines, right, you better get this done. And she's like, okay. But, so we were very familiar with each other the whole way through. We always ribbed each other because, she's just a better all-around player than I ever was. I didn't hit. I certainly didn't play third. I mean, if she never pitched a game, she still would have been the starting third baseman and hit, third in the lineup or something. But, my thing was always like, well, I still throw faster. She didn't like that very much. So I think just being competitive athletes, I hope that she was glad I was on her teams, and I certainly was glad that she was on mine. But it also made it fun when we played each other in college, right? I mean, that was the big, UCLA was the big dog, and it was pretty fantastic whenever we got to face each other and not just be teammates.
Yeah, it was a big deal when you both faced each other. It was kind of like the modern kind of what when Cat Osterman and Monica Abbott have faced each other in the pros. Like, oh, this is like a big showdown, like the duel in high noon, like old movies there. But it helped it grow the game, and you both became teammates. Obviously, both competitive. Oh, I'm really jealous of the travel ball coach who had both of you. Hello, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. I mean,
I know we were stacked one year. I mean, we really were. It's like, but it was super fun to be able to go out on the field and you really did think to yourself, like, it doesn't matter who's playing today on our team. We're gonna beat you. I think one year we had Dee Dee Wyman, who was at UCLA, and she was awesome. And then Lisa and myself and Debbie Doom, and it was just, good luck. So you could face any of us, and we'll get the job done. But
Debbie Doom, why? Yeah, Debbie Doom. Tell me how many. There's not a lot of innings in there for that staff. Holy smokes!
Well, I mean, it's different now. Travel ball now is like what I would call travel ball light, right? They throw 3 or 4 innings, and time expires. It's not the same. Old days, the best games you would have seen, we'd have pickup games on a Wednesday night in Southern California, and like the top 20 people in the country would be there, and you just grind it out, and then you go play 7-inning games, not 4 or 5 inning games, back to back to back, and you play 3 and 4 games in a day. We won a national championship one year. I think we lost the first game of the morning in extra innings. And of course, this is at the end of the tournament, so you've already played a crap ton of games. We lost the first game in the morning, and then we ended up playing 5 games total that day. After, I think the first game we played was like 14 innings or something. And then we had 4 games after that. 3 of them were against the same team, because of course the team we lost to in the first game, we had to come back and beat twice to win. So, you needed to have a staff in order to be able to handle that kind of a game load. I mean, we didn't think anything of having 3 and 4 games in a day. And now it seems like if you have 2, everybody's exhausted. It's just hilarious.
Yeah. No, definitely. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But I want to ask you about certain individuals on that 96 Olympic team, because kind of looking back, a lot of you have gone on to either coaching or are still very heavily involved in softball. For example, I will bring some names. Obviously, Lisa's currently still coaching at UCLA. Laura Berg, the head coach at Oregon State. What was it like playing with Laura?
So, I mean, she's just a spitfire. I mean, the funnest thing is when you see, I love the way our team individually enjoyed the game. So not only do you have a knowledge of the game instinctually and gut, like you can only play this game at the top level when you know it. And so, Laura could be in the outfield, dive and catch a ball. And she knew based on how fast that runner was, where they would likely be, what base they would be going into. So she could get up and throw it, let's say to third or second, because she knew that was their pace. And you just don't see that a lot anymore. So having that kind of all out play all the time, and that includes in practice, I guess I didn't realize when I was younger how fortunate I was that I was surrounded by people like that. And it certainly is true of Laura, and it's certainly true of Lisa, and really everybody on that team.
Other notables from the team, Dot Richardson, who was kind of the vocal spokesman of the team. When they're during the Olympic coverage, they were showing all the interviews she would do and things like that. She's now the head coach at Liberty. Leo O'Brien, who's been a commentator for softball, and of course Michelle Smith, who obviously everybody knows from ESPN commentating. Your thoughts? I mean, that's a pretty in-depth group there that still involves softball, either in coaching or in broadcasting.
But I think the main thing is we all feel a sense of belonging, but also a willingness to give back and make sure that it's better for the kids that are coming through after us. I mean, Dot's like, she's crazy. And I mean that in the best possible way, because I have never seen her kind of energy over such a long period of time. She's the genuine article. Like we were always like, Dot, let's go, because it would be 2:00 in the morning and we have to get on a bus to go somewhere to, play the next day in our pre-Olympic tours. And she did not want to leave that field until every single kid, every single person, that wanted her autograph or wanted a picture or chat, she would do that kind of stuff. And I was a lot more low profile. I just wanted to get my job done and focus on what I needed to do. I needed that sort of quiet time. But Dot's energy is really infectious, and her, not just her willingness to give of herself, I think, but she wants to share her experiences. And it's hard to find that. And she effectively does it. I would say Leah does the same thing in the sense that she effectively communicates what she's feeling. And I think that's why people feel a pull to, when she's doing speaking engagements and all of those things, I think she's very good at it, because you can feel her genuine character. And, we were just lucky. We had just a solid group of people from start to finish. And again, I guess, reflecting back, I realized that more and more as I've gotten older, and I did take that for granted, I think, when we were all together.
Do you remember when you made the last out? You guys made the last out, got that last out, win the gold, and get to wear that gold medal? I mean, that had to be a pretty special moment, surreal moment, especially in the States. That was the first Olympics in softball, and really was the beginning of helping this game kind of explode from a popularity standpoint. It's in the States.
I think we were all excited and surprised. Like, we were the hottest ticket in town. You couldn't get a ticket, and nobody was prepared for how popular our game was going to be at that level. And it was crazy. So I think we got a good sense of what it meant to the people in our country when you walk in and you have 15,000 people chanting USA. And I will tell you that stepping on the mound and starting that the first pitch of the games, and then of course stepping on in the gold medal game, when you finally get to the point where the game's over, there's an elation, but there's also a little bit of a disappointment, because that it's over. Do you know what I mean? You've been focused on something for so long, and it's taken up every amount of your physical energy and your mental acuity and all of these things, and it all gets put together in this one moment of complete jubilation for a few seconds. And then it's like, oh gosh, like that took an awful long time for that. Right. It was incredible, but there was a little bit of an instant elation and then a momentary, kind of letdown. And I think it was just, that's part of being a competitor. You're really playing for that moment, that win, that, those successes. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess we all probably, you'd ask that question of every single person on that team, and I think they would all give you a little bit of a different answer. I don't know. I think it was just all of those things, jubilation and then a little bit of relief, I suppose.
Sure. Makes sense.
Because, well, I mean, look at the home run, that Dot hit. We did not hit well. I mean, look at the last Olympics too. Nobody could freaking hit. It's like, I don't know what happens, but I personally think it comes down to who can perform best under pressure. And how do you put a team together and figure out who's going to be the one to come through when you need it? Right. You got a lot of people that can hit great when it doesn't matter, but who's going to be that person, right? Who's going to be able to, in the moment, make the adjustment that is needed in front of whatever it was, 10,000, 15,000 people, whatever, and be able to get the job done. And I think, as exciting as it is to win a gold medal, it was also really kind of interesting to me to look at those moments and say, okay, if you haven't been in that moment before, how do you know? How do you know who's going to really be ready for it? Right.
Right. Right.
That's why sports is so fun, right? Sports is just, I love everything about it. I love watching people succeed. And frankly, I like watching them fail. I know that sounds kind of crappy, but it's not that I want somebody else to fail. It's not like somebody has to win, somebody has to lose, and you learn something either way. And how people react and how they come back from that's part of, being resilient, and part of being, good at whatever you're doing, whatever your craft is. So, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to me to see what everybody would answer when you say what happens to your brain in that moment. Because I very clearly, remember, being so excited, and then, a little bit of relief, and then a little bit of disappointment that the ride was over.
Yeah, I think we had most of the members we've had that have had that same answer. Dot actually had plans because I think she already had like either an exam or she had a job already lined up and flew the next day. So she was already thinking ahead. But
Yeah.
it's a special group there. And that you mentioned that was kind of the end of your career.
Mhm.
You go into coaching, which you've been doing since. You've been coaching travel ball. You're doing lessons, college. What got you interested in getting into coaching, and just kind of take us through the journey after that Olympics?
Well, I mean, so I was pregnant in the Olympics, so I was puking my guts out like in between games, right? And it was awful in that regard. So that was not easy for me. But when I already had that in my head as we were going through the Olympic Games, like I was already on track. I'm going to be a mom. This is not, going to happen in a year. This is happening now. And as a new mom, and I think all moms experience this, it's scary, it's exciting, it's all of these things, and you want to do what's best for your kids. And I remember, going to these practices, whether it be, I coached in Little League, I coached in rec ball, and I couldn't stand it. Like I couldn't stand like unproductive practices. Like, as a mom, we have so many things that we're juggling. I didn't want to waste a 2-hour part of my day, at a practice that wasn't productive. So I decided to start coaching. And, you haven't really lived until you're a softball mom, coaching a little league practice like a softball practice. Because all the teams, you look at all the fields and all these little baseball teams are having one kid up at the plate and everybody's in the outfield, and it's so boring. And I'm running it like a softball practice, right? Small clusters, and 3 of us coaches all running drills, and they're running around. And we had the best practices because, first of all, I had really good coaches with me, but also the kids just bought in because they were always super active. And I think that's probably where I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to figure out how to coach while I'm juggling everything else. And that turned into starting a nonprofit called Silver Streak, and was trying to grow that. And I just couldn't handle the time commitment. And so I ended up coaching with the Choppers, and I watched high school practice before I got into coaching at our high school. And the coach had a pitching machine on the plate throwing pop flies to the outfield for 2 hours. And I'm like, oh my God, that's just mind numbing. Right. And so I ended up coaching at the high school. And if you haven't ever coached at the high school, that's quite a treat. I recommend it to everybody. It was probably the first softball job I've ever gotten when I've gone into a meeting with my resume, which is pretty much softball heavy. And I didn't get hired on the spot. I'm walking out of the room. I go, are you really going to let me walk out of the room without hiring me to coach a high school softball team?
Wow.
And the guy's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. I mean, who's more qualified than me? I couldn't figure it out. It was just blowing my mind. And he's looking at me like, who is this person? I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. But I mean, rightfully so, right? When you're going through the school district, they had to, make sure that I was actually going to be a super good fit. And it was a little tough when I first started coaching high school because, I had to teach people how to catch, and throw. It was basically like being in rec again. And I didn't really understand that at the time. And then through the course of my time there, we started getting more and more softball minded athletes, and it ended up being a great experience. But I like being out on the field. I like the kids that buy in and understand the amount of work it's going to take to be good at something. I like watching them learn those lessons. And that's why I decided to come back and coach in the college ranks.
You mentioned earlier you coached at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For those in the audience, because I know for most in the audience, they're going to be thinking automatically, like, wait a minute, where the weeklies were?
Yeah.
Kind of explain when you got to Tennessee, because that was a young program at the time.
Yeah, they were terrible. I mean, the SEC was pretty much, it was a non-entity for softball at that point. And then the schools, I don't know if the SEC as a whole or the athletic departments decided that they wanted to start changing that. And they've done it, right? I mean, once they decided they were going to do softball, they went all in. They hired the weeklies. And then I'd played for Ralph at a sports festival. I was a little surprised to get the phone call because I think because I pitched for him and we'd always gotten along, but I don't know. I guess at the time with a bunch of little kids running around, I didn't really think about, college coaching at that point. But that man is a good talker.
Yeah.
And, he like kind of laid out his plan, and he knew from the time that he took that job where he saw that program going. And that's the other cool thing about sports, right? I mean, they took that program from absolutely, the beginning and created it. And Karen is one of those people. I mean, I'm sure people understand this now, but that she can break down anything. We would have the best conversations because I come at it from a pitching perspective, and she could break down mechanics whether you're a fielder or you're a hitter. And then her and I would work together with the pitchers because at the time I was, coming in and out. I wasn't at practice every day. So she had to make sure that all of those things, were still running smoothly in my absence. But they built that program. I remember when I was getting interviewed for that job, the athletic director said, how long will it take, for this program to really be strong? And I just said 5 years or one really good pitcher. And then we got Monica Abbott the next year. So.
Oh, that's right. You were there when that happened, didn't you?
Yeah. Karen really did the legwork on that one. I mean, we would get in a car and, fly in from Tennessee and then drive down to Salinas and watch Monica in a high school game. And we'd do all that stuff, the standard sort of recruiting deal. But Karen's a really good communicator. And I think the combination of, making sure that Monica understood, well, Tennessee is just, if you're an athlete, it's a hard place to not be a part of, because they really do treat you as an equal. You're getting all of the support that you need, and you're also getting a quality education. I think Monica saw that it was going to be a really good place for her, and it ended up being the perfect place for her. She really did take on that mantle of building that program. So.
That's like full circle, because I don't know if our audience may not be aware of this. Monica obviously wore 14 at Tennessee. It's worn, 14 Olympics. That was your number.
Right? I know.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if are the two of you even aware of that? Like the fact you were. Okay. I want to make sure.
So when she first got there, so I'm a big drill person. Like I like doing drills. I like doing, speed drills and running drills and target drills and a lot of drill work. And she'd really never done that before. And, she kind of gave me that, like, why am I doing this? And I'm like, well, you have a choice, right? I could leave you alone and you could do things your own way and you're going to be great for us. You're already there. But if you want to be the gold medal Olympic pitcher, that's a different level. And so you can't compare yourself to all the other pitchers here. Your workouts are going to be harder. They're going to be longer. And that's how you have to prepare if you want to be the person that gets the ball when it matters. And she's like, I want to be that person. And look what happens, right? She's became who she is today through hard work and determination. And, she's tearing it up. So super proud of that kid.
In other words, make sure you wear 14. You'll be successful pitcher, throw left, I mean, we got something
Don't
there.
throw too many curves. Like that's the lefties. They all want to throw curveballs all the time. I'm like, for the love of God, don't throw that. But anyway, yeah.
You eventually move on and you get away. You mentioned you leave college coaching. Did you ever think you'd get back? Because obviously we'll talk about now where you at Cal Poly. What got you back into college coaching? Because you had joined Cal Poly a few years ago as a volunteer. What got you back into it?
Well, I mean, I think it was just the right situation. When I was coaching with the Choppers and the Fawcett's, it was just fun. I mean, we had a group of players that they all wanted to be there. They worked really hard. They were fun to coach. And I think, I've been working with a lot of younger kids throughout my coaching career. And I finally was at that 18s level, and all of those kids were going to go off and play somewhere in college. And so the level of play was higher. And I thought, oh gosh, maybe I'm not ready to be done with this. Because my plan was really to stop, when my younger daughter, who's playing softball at Harvard now, once she was done, then I needed to actually, make some money, get a job, plan for retirement. I mean, I've been sort of juggling my baking business and coaching softball. And I guess it just, again, I ran into Gina and it just kind of became the right opportunity. And the volunteer position was perfect for me at the time because I still had kids at home. And I don't know, I guess it just kind of grew. You gravitate to stuff that you really enjoy doing. And for me, like I said, I really enjoy working with kids that want to learn. And I'm really lucky. I have a group of pitchers right now that are just, I have no filter. Have you noticed? And so, that can be hard. I get that about myself. Like that can be hard. I've also learned, I struggle with, I guess, because I've seen so many athletes at different levels, and I feel like people have tried to not hurt their feelings and done them a huge disservice, because if you tell somebody they're good and they're not, are you really helping them? Right? I mean, you don't want to say you're not good, but you want to say you need to work on this, and here's how you fix it, and here's how you get there. And I think I'm really lucky here that I have a group of kids that, they're willing to work hard. They understand when they miss a pitch. Like, so you could strike somebody out and they look at me like, are you happy? No, I'm not happy. Did you do the job? Yes, you did. But did you put that pitch where I asked you to put it, where you would have had a high percentage of success? And they're like, no, we missed. I'm like, oh, there you go. Then we're gonna get on the right road, because they're recognizing their mistakes. It's not a happy accident when somebody's successful. It takes hard work. And so I have a group of kids this year that are just hardworking kids, and so they come in at a certain level, and I have a plan for them, right? But it doesn't do any good for me to have a plan for them if they don't have a plan for themselves. And I like I said, I'm just lucky. I have a group of kids that are making this year really fun for me.
You mentioned earlier the the pitchers have changed now, and you've seen it at all levels as you've stayed around the game. It used to be you give them the ball, they throw the whole game, maybe throw 2 games a day.
Yeah.
Now it's by a lot of the committee, by staffs, 3-4 innings. How is the process now developing a pitcher different than it was when you were playing, and then even when you were coaching early on? How much have you had to kind of adapt to the young players now, and as far as the process of developing a pitcher?
Well, I mean, I've done lessons and stuff too, and I enjoy doing that because I can help them understand. But I have a lot of real problems with how people are being taught to pitch right now. I'll start with one that I hate. Pitch to contact. What? You want them to hit the ball? That's bullcrap. Like, like that's not doing your job, right? I mean, that I can't stand. The other one is they try to make them successful really young. So they're not building their speed. So everybody throws, they say they throw 60s. They don't. They throw 57 to 60, right? Maybe, and they plateau there. And I feel bad for them because many of them could throw much better than that. But they go to lessons, they go once a week, and they learn the same freaking thing over and over again. When I did lessons and I felt like I couldn't help a kid anymore, I go, you need to go somewhere else. And they're like, what? Are you kicking me out? No, I mean, I think you're fantastic, but I haven't helped you in the last 3 weeks. We've made no progress. So we're not communicating the way I'm either not communicating what I need from you, or we're just not on the same page. Doesn't mean you can't come back, but go learn from somebody else for a while. These people, they want to collect all these kids. And I don't love that. I don't love the way that pitchers are practicing now. I don't love that they want them throwing pitches at 12 years old. That's ridiculous. You want to know the best way to stop a kid from reaching their top speed? Have them throw a bunch of pitches when they're 12 years old. I mean, you don't need a bunch of pitches at 12. Throw a freaking fastball to a location. Add in a change if you feel like it. I had one pitch. No, everybody knew what I was going to throw. I threw a rise ball. That's it. Right. Once in a while, I would screw around with other things just for fun. But, I could put that pitch where I wanted, when I wanted, at any time. And kids just can't do that now. If you see a kid throw 1 out of 10 of their best pitch and hit a spot, that's a success. That's not right. That's just not right. So we need to reevaluate how we're training these kids, because it's about getting each kid better, and they're not carbon copies of each other. I don't want to teach you how to throw exactly like me, because your body's different than mine. Your development is different than mine. Each kid has to have their own journey to success. And I'm very excited that a lot more quality pitchers and quality coaches are starting to teach the younger generation. So we'll see the results of that, I think, in the next couple of years. But every once in a while, I'm out recruiting and I think, I look at a kid and I'm like, why are you doing that?
Right. No, I agree.
What is going on?
Well, that's good to hear. You're telling me though, it's starting to positively turn, because I've talked to a lot of coaches that have the same concerns you did off record, and they've talked about that. Like, oh boy, it's not like it was 10 years ago. These pitchers were ready made, but you're seeing that it's starting to turn back now, that there's optimism where you could get back to that from a pitching standpoint.
For sure. And, and here's the other thing. I'm not saying you had to be great to be a good coach, but it helps. So, go to the men's fast pitch guys that used to spin the ball, do some research. If somebody tells you they're good, that's a red freaking flag, right? I see that all the time. Pitching coaches will tell everybody how good they were, and I'll look them up because I've never heard of them. And I'll be like, okay, I mean, if that's your definition of success, right? I mean, just buyer beware
Sure.
on the pitching front, right? And again, there's so many videos out there now that you can take advantage of, and just understand. I would look by body size, right? If you're 5'5", you need to find a quality 5'5" pitcher and pull what she does well. My motion when I was growing up was thought to be odd because my dad was a baseball pitcher. So he taught me to throw like a baseball pitcher. Everything was off a split finger. I had a high front step to keep my weight back so I could drive forward. I would have loved to have these rules like they have now, with your back foot being able to be off the rubber. And now the ASA is going to let you have both feet off of the ground at the same time. I mean, holy crap. I mean, you could throw hard. I'm like, that's almost like doing a speed drill run through for a pitch. I mean, geez. So, pitching coaches have to continue to evolve, myself included. But parents, well-intended parents, need to do some research and really find their kids, some quality instruction. And by the way, if your daughter is not the number one pitcher on a team, stop pulling her out and moving her around. Make her compete. You want your kid to compete in college, then, teach her how to do that as she's growing up. As parents sometimes, and myself included, I had 4 kids, they all played sports, and I had to resist. I was hard on my kids because I was maybe swinging to the opposite side, right? Instead of coddling. And, I get that there is a happy medium, but, as a parent, you do have to figure out what's going to be best for your kid. And some kids, and I've had to come to terms with this too, when I was coaching in high school, their goals are different. So I had to start asking, what is your goal? Like, I don't, I'm trying to make you a Division I shortstop, but your goal, right, is to have fun on a Thursday at the games and then go to homecoming on Saturday. So I've learned to start asking the questions, and parents need to ask those questions too, right? There's no need for your 12-year-old to travel all over the country if she wants to play with their friends at home. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I was really fortunate to work with Darcy Brownell over at Sierra College. And my kids grew up in their dugout, basically. After kindergarten, we'd head over and work with the pitchers. And The JC level is the perfect platform for so many kids to decide if it's something they want to turn into a little bit more of a serious commitment, because, if you want to be good at something, it takes a lot of time.
No doubt. And I think it's great that it's evolving. And again, it also avoids student athletes having burnout. Some things, it's always good to try different things. I think that's a fantastic message. I want to ask you about Coach Jenny Condon, who you now work with at Cal Poly. What is it like working for her?
So I'm surrounded by outfielders. I got Gina and I got Jenny, right? So I got all these, and we're all left-handed. So right,
wow.
I mean, it's crazy. But you learn a lot from each person. Like, so the thing that to me makes Puppy so special, makes Gina so special, is she truly cares about every kid. Like, she wants them to do well, and she breaks things down. And Jenny's got the hard job. People keep saying, are you going to try to be a head coach? I don't know. I mean, she's in Zoom meetings all the freaking time. That woman, it's the bureaucracy of what you have to do to get your program going. It's trying to look at it. She has the ability to look at the program as a whole, right? So where I get to focus on my pitchers, and that's sort of my little niche, she's got to look at everybody, and not just the well-being of them and getting them better on the field, but in the classroom, and how are they doing, and she juggles a lot of things. And so it's been super interesting to me, because I've known her as an athlete, and super competitive, quick outfielder, all these things. And now to see her really make a difference in all of her players' lives on a daily basis. What she does is really take each player as a whole. And I think that's pretty special. It's very easy for me to talk to parents about getting a kid to come here, because the truth of the matter is there's very few programs that are going to give you the benefits of a place like this. And it's because of Jenny. I mean, she's put together a program that is competitive, that's compassionate, and that creates these people that are prepared when they go out into the world. And so it's been a lot of fun coaching for her.
That's tremendous. And you've mentioned your staff. You're excited about the group you got on your pitching staff. Let's talk about them. Give us a kind of a look for those who are going to watch Cal Poly this upcoming year. What can they expect from the pitching staff, and what stands out to you so far?
Well, so again, me, no filter. Christina, our little lefty, and I love lefties, right? I mean, I really challenged her when she came in. She had to make some pretty big jumps in mechanics because she's little, super athletic, super coordinated, but was very inefficient. And we don't get a lot of time with these kids. I mean, they have Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, summer break, there's all these breaks. And so she came in throwing this fall better than I've seen her, period. I mean, she took to heart all of the things that needed to happen and incorporated her drill work, and she's using her entire body now. So she's able to throw a couple miles an hour faster consistently, which is huge. And her ball, instead of breaking slowly, is breaking sharply. So, she's made tremendous improvements, and I have no doubt she's going to do very well for us this year. And then we have Kate Judy, who's just this, like, she's got these long, lanky arms and legs. And I'm trying to figure out where to start with her, right? Because I watch her and I'm like, and she'll probably kill me for saying this, but when I didn't, Jenny and Gina saw her and recruited her. I just got to see her right before she came in a game. And I walked up and I had met her dad, and I'm like, wow, your kid doesn't suck. Yeah. He's like, did you really just say that to me? I go, yeah, I totally did. But she has this really good resistance on a lot of her pitches, but we're working on getting her more and more consistent. But that kid, she can spin a ball, and I haven't seen this in a while. All these kids today do everything on an angle, it's an angled up pitch, an angled down pitch, angled in, angled out, blah, blah, blah. It's so freaking boring and easy to track. But this kid has that, we're working on the consistency of it, but she has that snap where the ball jumps. And so we're working with her on making sure that it's breaking at the right time. Like, what good does the break do if it breaks after the swing? It's breaking late. So she's going to be fun to watch. And I think she's really going to help us. I know she's really going to help us in the circle this year. And then we have Paige, poor Paige. When she came in, I had seen her only pitch once in the summer, and I was like not overly impressed. And so when I met her here, I go, well, you're going to have to win me over. And she's just like, oh my God. Right. And she has. Within the first week, she won me over. And in part because of her work ethic and her personality, because she's super freaking funny, but she has that game face. I love the game face. Like, I want to be able to look at a picture and not know if it's going great or terribly. And she's totally got that, but she's able to move the ball into all the different quadrants consistently. And that's going to help us a ton. I think she's going to be our most consistent in terms of location. And then Danielle Reyes, who's a senior, she came to us from Sac City JC and struggled a bit last year. And I'm hoping, and I think she understands her role now, because she is that kid that can come in and throw a lineup off like one time through the lineup. She really has this weird freaking, you could throw the same pitch 3 times and it's going to move a little bit differently each time and be at a different speed. So I think her change of speeds and her movement, even though it's inconsistent, sometimes that can be a good thing, is going to help us get through those tough innings when maybe another pitcher is throwing a little too flat. I'm really looking, and the pitchers are all learning this very quickly with me. I don't want anything to stay on the same plane. It's too easy to hit. There's too many really solid hitters, and they've done a very good job of starting to adjust and throwing their curves up and curves down and screws up and screws down. So nothing's staying level. So I'm really excited. I think that, pitching is they're gonna do great things for us on the mound this year.
That sounds like you got some versatility and some variety in your staff too, which is so big in today's game.
It is. And the thing too is, the hard thing is you said this earlier, now you have to pitch by committee. And I guarantee you at some point we're going to build that pitcher that's throwing a lot of innings for us. But as of now, we are going to have to move those innings in and out a little bit. And it's tricky. You don't want to replace a kid that's struggling with a kid that's throwing around the same speed with the same movement, right? So a lot of it's going to be moving these puzzle pieces in and out in an effective way. And, I try to really encourage, like, I can't remember, except for Kirk Walker. He told me what to throw one time. Drop balls. He wanted me to learn. It was all good. He wanted me to learn how to throw a drop ball. But anyway, I think nobody told me how I was going to throw, and I don't want to tell them what to throw. And so I really try to make sure that they understand that they should communicate back and forth with me. In a perfect world, the pitcher and catcher would call their game and I wouldn't have to do that, right? And my hope is that at some point I will have prepared them both enough where they feel super comfortable at being able to make those decisions. It's amazing to me now, and I see why this has happened, obviously, doing the coaching thing, why college coaches have to call every pitch. Well, they have to call every pitch because the catchers and the pitchers don't even realize what they should be throwing. I'll say a lot of times, and I would imagine at some points I'm sort of entertaining because I forget, again, no filter, from the sidelines, when a pitcher misses, I'll be like, well, just because that worked, don't think I liked it, or something, because they need to identify and be able to say, I want them to think. I want them to think about what pitch they should throw to who and why. Just the other day in a scrimmage, the pitcher shook me off and threw a changeup. And I said, okay. And it didn't go well. And then after, we talked about it, I'm like, in that situation with the runner on third, you don't want to throw a changeup to a lefty slapper. It's just it's not the right pitch. We could have thrown anything fast and tried to get him to hit it to the left side. But those are lessons that have to be taught. And so that's a big part of my job. And I'm hoping, this is my hope for the future, as more and more competitive players continue on their journey to help the next generation of players, we'll start getting more higher softball IQ ball player at the college, that they'll come in. Again, my dad was a baseball guy, and we would sit there and watch baseball all the time. And he'd be like, what pitch would you throw that guy? What? Why? What would you do here? What would you do there? So it became automatic. Like, I loved the batters that would take a practice swing on the side because I already knew what you couldn't hit. I could tell you, the hold in your swing. Now they go to this hitting instructor and half the lineup has the same freaking swing. I'm like,
Right.
this is like, whose genius idea was that? They all have the same hole.
Right.
Right. So now I have
Yeah.
to teach the pitchers to see that, right? Teach the pitchers. It doesn't
Think
have
the
to
game.
be
Think the game. I mean, that's a great point. Pitchers think through the game. Don't just let others calling games for you. I mean, no one's calling pitches for Cat Osterman. Who's going to tell Cat Osterman what to call, what to throw? I mean, Cat knows better than anybody. I mean, that's a great point. Monica Abbott's of the world, they know the game better than inside out. They're thinking through each pitch they're doing. That's a great point.
Yeah. So again, I think that the more you see these players go back and start teaching, you're going to see a higher caliber of pitcher on the mound, not just because they're going to be physically prepared, but they've been, whether they knew it or not, they've been learning the mental part of the game. Right. And
Right.
so I would reiterate those younger kids, for them to get to the point where they're really going to be strong pitchers. You need to give them a little bit of a freaking break. Like, who cares I hear this all the time. Well, she throws really hard, but I can't let her pitch because she won't throw a strike. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Just give her limits. You know what I mean? Like, today, who cares if you win the 10U championship? Like, I don't understand that. So let her walk and say, okay, you can walk 2 an inning. If a run scores, I'm taking you out, but you're going to go back in. Right. I mean, where's that encouragement? Where's that, now these kids want to throw strikes all the time because that's the kid that, gets to pitch the most. Well, how do you know at 10 years old, which one is going to put the work in to get really good and which one isn't? So we're losing a lot of really athletic pitchers because they're not getting the opportunity when they're young. So is that a little too much on my soapbox?
I love this. No, are you kidding me? You're made for this. You could be, if you ever, if I need to take a show off, I'll just let you host. Like, I think you've got this podcast thing down pat. I'm down for this.
That would be my kid's nightmare, giving me a microphone and letting me talk. Oh, Lord.
I'm telling you, you and Michelle Smith together.
That would be fun. That would be super fun. I did that ESPN stuff for a while, color commentating back in the day, and they had to
Did you really?
Yeah, they had to take my replay button away from me because I'm like, would you look at that?
Oh yeah, I'm doing broadcast myself. I hear the producer let the replay. Yeah, that's kind of important.
They'll say to me, you can't say that. You have to be positive. I go because I'll say Crystal Bustos. When I first saw her play, she missed a ground ball at third, right through her legs. Right, and I had heard all the hype, like Crystal Bustos is so great, blah blah blah. I'm like, I was expecting big things. First ball she got went right through her legs, and I'm like, are you kidding me? On the air, right?
Oh. Yeah, the filter. Yeah, you kind of need the filter on the broadcast.
Kind of need the filter. And the guy's like, you can't say that. I go, everybody saw the ball went right through her legs. It's not news to them, right? So then she goes in the outfield. And this is when I thought, oh, she's the real deal, right? They put her in the outfield. And I swear to God, she ran down. She saw it right off, athletes that are really good at what they do are not only instinctual, but make very quick decisions. And the batter at the time just hammered line shot in the gap. And there was like no way that I'm like, after just seeing this play at third, that this kid is even going to be anywhere near that ball. I'll be damned if she didn't get the perfect jump, the perfect angle. I mean, she was on it and made it look easy. And it was just, then you're like, oh my God, now I see it. Right. I mean, so yeah, me on the air, not a great idea probably, but
no, at least not the podcasting. You can kind of get you have no there's no commercial breaks or anything like that. Just that's the key there. I've learned doing the podcasting side of things. Couple last
voice. You got the good voice.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you. That now see you're going to be coming on now more frequently. You're just so you know.
Hey, just suck up. That's what I'm doing. I'm just sucking up. You're doing a good
job. Let me a couple last things.
Sure.
Do you have leaders on your team? And I'm not just talking about specifically your pitching staff, just the team in general. Who are some of the leaders on your team for this upcoming season? Do you have it, or is that still evolving here as you're in the fall and in the going here?
So we're actually sort of in the process, because one of the things that Coach Jenny does and Coach Gina as well, they think of things that never even occur to me. And if you would ask me who the leaders are, my answer would be different. So what they're doing is they're going through this process of having the kids, first of all, define what they think a leader is, who has those characteristics on our team, And then the girls are going to come together and tell us, right, who their leaders are. So while I have in my head who I think they are, I can't say it because I don't want to,
Understand?
but it'll be really interesting to me. But what I think is so cool is that, Gina and Jenny thought about this process. Like, there's a process to picking a leader. What's important to me may not be important to them. And just in some of the stuff they've done, the two top things I think that the girls defined is what they're looking for in a leader is someone that leads by a strong example and some honesty. They wanted somebody that was honest. And again, those are big pluses for me, right? In terms of what I would look for in a leader as well. So I'm kind of excited to see who they come up with. And they're trying to pick a group of, I think it's between 3 and 5 players that are kind of going to be that leadership committee and help us kind of steer the ship through the season.
That makes a lot of sense because obviously it's important that the players look to that player as a leader. It's one thing if a coach thinks that, but if the players don't, it's kind of counterproductive. So it's a great point. Yep. I think that's pretty clever. You had some talented offensive players last year. Haley Bart was a first teamer. Yeah, Maddie Amos was a shortstop second teamer. Lily Amos. Just talk about some of the talented players you have on this roster that obviously you're hoping to help you compete here in the Big West, a tough league with Cal State Fullerton and Long Beach State, UC Davis, a league that's really always comes down to the end, it seems like.
It does. And I think that we have that hitting component down. I really do believe, Maddie's going to have a really good year. We've been scrimmaging more in the fall. And so it's been really fun for me because the thing that Maddie brings to the table is something that nobody can coach against her, which is it doesn't matter where you throw her. It's her eye-hand coordination that makes her such a great hitter. Avoiding a spot for her is irrelevant. She can hit the high and up. She can hit the down and out. She can hit the ball. She's strong enough to muscle a pitch on her hands and hit it for a line drive. So good luck, right? I mean, I've seen her enough now, and I coached her in travel ball, weirdly enough, when she was like 12 and 13, that she's just gotten better. So she's leaning into her strengths as a hitter. And that's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, Lily, her sister, you just have to be careful with Lily because she hits the weirdest balls out. Like, there's a ball that anybody else would let go that's, just too high or too far out, and she'll drive it into the gap. So, they're for sure going to help us. Haley graduated, which stinks. So we're going to miss her for sure because she was super consistent at the plate. She just got her dream job at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So I always used to tease her. I'm like, you're doing marine studies, marine biology. What are you going to do with that? Right. And so now she gets to go do that. But unfortunately, that means we don't have her in the hitting lineup anymore. But, we have Noella, who's in center and is a super senior, super quick, puts the ball in play consistently. And if you're not fielding it cleanly, she's going to be on. Juju is her eye at the plate. She's decided what her zone is, and she makes sure that she's waiting for that pitch, and she drives it every single time. Mia Perez, she's a power hitting lefty. She's going to help us out. Some of these freshmen are just, Julia Barnett has a great swing, and we're going to score some runs. That's not even a question. And I think we're a lot of fun to watch. And I know for me last year, Maddie hit the furthest home run I think I've ever seen when we were out at Santa Barbara. It was just gone and gone. Went over a building, for the love of God. It was crazy. So our game, and I think the kids understand this now, even if we're down, it doesn't matter. We're always in the game because we can hit our way back into it with one stroke oftentimes. Down by 2 means nothing. It just doesn't. So we're fun to watch because of that, because that sometimes when the game lulls and you think the other team's gotcha, and then we'll just have an inning and it's just like, total game changer. And now we've evened it up, or we're in the lead. So, it's going to be an exciting season, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. And I know the kids are as well.
My last question is, what's the keys for your team and to accomplish your internal goals here as you get, before you know it, February will get here? What are going to be some of the keys to have that success and be right there with the Fullertons and Long Beach in the Big West and competing for that conference championship? What's going to be the keys?
Well, I'm going to say it's twofold. It's my pitchers have got to do their job on the mound. They've got to put the ball where it needs to be. They have to minimize their mistakes. And I tell them this too, and I don't think people always believe me. You have to lean into your mistakes as a pitcher. Like, oftentimes when your timing's not right before you've let go of the pitch, and a lot of times pitchers will hesitate and pull back on that pitch. And then you really causes problems because now you're throwing a giant fatty. But if I call to rise and you throw a screw, I don't care, right? Is it fast? Is it moving? That's a solid miss. So we have to lean into those misses so that we're making sure that a batter is not getting solid contact. And I would say the second part of this is going to be our defense. Our defense has to do a better job of attacking foul ball pop-ups. It drives me nuts when I think a ball should be caught and we're not there. And a lot of that's just going to be communication. That's a lot of it's going to be our players learning what their range is. And so, I feel super strong that our hitting is going to be on, and I feel good about where we're heading in the pitching circle and on defense. But that's going to be the key for us, I think, is just making sure we're holding it down on the mound, and our defense is coming up with those kind of plays so that we're catching that pop fly in foul territory and not letting that batter get back up again and hit a double. I mean, that's got to be a change for us. We've got to make sure that we're ready to make those type of plays and understand that the field does not stop at the lines.
That's going to be incredible. Oh, you got me fired up. You're like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play, coach. I'm ready to go in. And I'm not going to help you win games, but I'm letting you know I'm ready to go. And I'm really excited to see you back in the game, college coaching. I think a lot of fans listening are excited to see you back in coaching in the college level. I appreciate you doing this and taking the time. You've been on our bucket list for a while, especially this year in an Olympic year, basically, as it turned out. Thank you for doing this. I wish you very well over there. We're going to be following you closely, you and Coach Condon and company. We wish you the very best, and we'll definitely be having you back on here in the near future.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me on.